Okay. So good morning, all of you. Uh, we are actually discussing the greedy problems or greedy algorithms. Greedy is one of the designing technique which largely relies on the current situations or the past experience, and that's how it makes the decision for any decision problem. So we have discussed a few algorithms, and this one is the last one, that is Huffman coding problem. Now, before we look into the actual problem statement, first we need to understand what do we mean by Huffman coding. Basically, it's an encoding technique. Encoding means that remember how their compression technique works. Uh, let's say you have a document of some size, some text document of some size, and then you are creating a zip file of it or a rar file. So these are the compression techniques which actually compress the content, and this compression is lossless. That means after you retrieve the uncompressed content, there will not be any loss of information. So these are known as the encoding and decoding operation. So you convert the original text into uh, encoded text, which might not be readable by human being. So let us say if you have a Word document and then you convert it into the zip file, and you open that zip file in the text editor, then you may not understand what is there inside it. So in order to get the content back, once again, you need to unzip that file, and then you can read the actual content. So encoding operation means that converting your data into the compressed format, and decoding operation means the reverse operation. So this technique, Huffman coding technique, is basically used in encoding and decoding some content or document or data, you can say. Now, it's very effective encoding technique. The reason why we say that you will be understanding once we finish this entire problem statement. So let us first understand the why do we need this kind of a scheme, or what is the actual purpose of having an efficient encoding technique. Let's say you have a file in which you have 6 characters starting from A to A. So that means your file contains only 6 letters: A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. If 100, that means there are number of characters are 100. Uh, the frequency of each character is also given. Frequency means how many times that number is repeated. So out of 100, 45s are A, B is repeated 13 times, C is repeated 12 times, D 16, E 9, and F 5 times. So this is my content, this is my data, which I want it to encode. So that means I need a file or some technique which will actually compress this content. So if I want to represent this, remember, compressing means that you are actually also interested in retrieving the original data as well at some point of time. So you can't just simply compress it, and that should not be. There are two types of compression: a lossy compression and lossless compression. The compression technique which we have in images, right? Sometimes what happens that if you have an original image of some resolution, then you compress it, convert it into the JPEG. So that JPEG is basically a compressed version of image, and it might have a reduced quality which we cannot observe actually, but there is some quality degradation in that case. And now once you have degraded that, you cannot go back to the original content. That means you can't just simply convert original content from a JPEG file. So that is called a lossy compression. Lossy compression means that information is lost and you cannot recover it from the compressed data. Here we are discussing the lossless compression. Lossless compression means that information should not be lost while doing compression. So whenever you are decoding the content, you should retrieve, or you should be able to retrieve the original data as well. So let's say how to do that. So in order to have a representation, normally we know that if we want to store character A, character A is represented in ASCII format. So basically it requires 8 byte. It's a single character, right? Sorry, it's require 1 byte, right? In any C language, we know that character is 1 byte. 1 byte means 8 bits. But why that was 8 bits? Because we are interested in so many bytes, so many different characters. Like in ASCII, we have total 128 different characters possible. And that's why we have 8 bits, or we have 8 bit for representing a single byte. But when imagine that you have only 6 letter instead of 128 character, imagine that English language has only 6 letter. So do you require 8 byte for that? Obviously not. The reason for that is 6 different representation you can always, that means if we, let me show you. So 3 bits are there. So that means you have how many different possibilities? So you have 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, right? So if you have 3 bits, that means you have maximum 8 representation, and it's a binary, so you can always have this equation that 2 raised to 3. When you have this 8 different representation possible, then you can always design a scheme in which A will be represented by 0, 0, 0, B will by this, 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 F, G, and H. In our application, we don't need actually these 2 representation, but still, you can't have just 2 bits, because in that case, you can only have these 4 letters, but we have 6 letters. So obviously, you have to go for 3 bits. So that will give us these options. Now, instead of 8 by 8 bit to represent A, now how many bits I'm using? I'm just using 3 bits due to this new encoding scheme. So this is how any compression technique works. This is called fixed length encoding. Fixed length encoding means that for every letter A or B or C or D, you have fixed number of bits. So here is also 3, here is 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 3. Now the important thing is that this can be improved. Instead of having a fixed letter, if you design a scheme in which you have a variable length codes available, then you can improve on that. So let us first discuss how. So fixed length code means that each letter will be represented by 3 bits. So let us say this is our scenario, that we are representing A with this, B with this, like this. Let's say you have a file of 10 raised to 5 characters. So instead of 100 characters, you have required for a single character. Obviously, you require 3 into 10 raised to 5 bits for representing the entire content of the file. And this is in case of fixed length encoding scheme. So let us say how it can be improved. The improved version can be the variable length encoding scheme. So how this variable length encoding scheme works, it basically exploits the information about frequency. Now frequency means what? The number of occurrences. Obviously, you can observe that A is occurring 45 times while F is occurring only 5 times. So if I can have a scheme in which A can be represented by less number of bits compared to F, then obviously that scheme is going to help me to compress or to encode in efficient way. So variable length scheme actually exploits the information of frequency to generate its code. and Huffman coding actually helps at that particular point. So each character represented by unequal number of bits instead of a fixed number of bits. Now we have unequal number of bits to represent each character. So let us say we have this scheme or this representation. There is an interesting property of this representation as well, which is required, because remember you are actually interested in converting the encoded data back to the original data. So, and remember, this is all binary, so you have only 0 and 1 when you represent it in bit. So you must have some mechanism by which you can say that this 101 is actually representing B and not something else. So that means it's not actually, there should not be something like 10 as well or something like 01 as well. So that has to be stopped. And how that can be done, that is being done using prefix code. We'll understand what it is. But if you consider this scheme, that A is 0, B is this is the scheme, then if you have this file, let us say, so A is represented by a single bit, so there are 45 bits for that. Then you have 3 bit for B, C and D. So 13 plus 12, 25 plus 16, 41. So 41 multiplied by 3. And then you have 9 and 5, 14 multiplied by 4. So that will obviously reduce the content, or it will obviously improve the overall requirement, or it will obviously improve the encoded data. When we say we want to improve, it means that we want to minimize the size. But how this can be used, because as I told you that 110 means 110 only, and it is not 110 or 100. That has to be assured, and that is being done by using prefix code. What it says, codes in which no code word is also prefix of some another code word. So let us say if you say this 101 is one of the code, then 101 will not be repeated or will not be part of or prefix part of any other code. Prefix means that any code will not start with 101. If you say this 0, then no code will start with 0. You can see over here. Right? Similarly, 100, no code can start with 100. So that is called prefix code. And once you have that prefix code available, you can always decode back the original content. So optimal data compression is achieved by prefix code. I hope that you have understood the basic of what do we mean by encoding and decoding. We don't want to be expert of this, but what I want is that you should understand why Huffman coding is coming into the picture. Huffman code is basically a technique to generate this prefix code. So we have discussed that why we need encoding. Encoding is basically to compress the data or to represent the data in the smaller size, and then you want to decode it back. So you need some kind of a mechanism. One mechanism is you can use some fixed length code depending on the size of the your text. So there are 6 letters, you can use 2 raised to 3, that means 8 different letter you can represent. So you have 6 letters, so you can use 3 bits. But this has some limitation because here you are not considering the frequency, how many times that particular letter is occurring. So that will actually create a larger document or larger compressed data. If you can exploit this information, then you need to use some kind of a variable and encoding scheme. But if you want to use that scheme will obviously compress the data in better way. But the limitation over here is that you must have prefix code. Prefix code means that no code is or also prefix of some another code for entire representation. So that is the what Huffman is targeting. Huffman is actually a tool or an algorithm which will actually compute prefix code for any given data. So let us say we have okay, let us say we discuss one more example. So how do we decode with this variable length encode? Let's say you have this A, B, C, D, E, F. This is the fixed length scheme. Once you have fixed length scheme, then it's fine. You can divide the entire document in the size of 3-bit, and then simply just say that if that 3-bit is 010, then it's C. If this is 011, then it's D. But that will not be the case when you have a variable length encoding scheme. So in order to have that variable length encoding scheme, you must have some mechanisms as well, which is required at decoding side. But that's fine. That can be done if you have this tree available. This is called Huffman tree. And our objective is to find out that Huffman tree. So what is Huffman coding problem? Given a tree, C is a set of alphabets. Alphabets means that in our example, we have A to F. So there are 6 different alphabets. Number of bits required to encode represents the cost of tree. FC is the frequency of occurrences, and DT is the length of the code word. Length means that here is the depth. So if you observe this tree, then length of the code F is actually the depth of that particular leaf node. Now you use that informations and you want to optimize this. So this is basically my optimization function. Why we require a greedy algorithm? Because we need to optimize this. What is the constraint over here? Constraint is obviously the alphabets or the number of bits which you want to represent. So this is known as an Huffman tree. I think this is also not that important. What is important is to understand how Huffman code approaches. So let us discuss this example. Not over here. I will discuss at here. So what you have been given is a data. In which you have been given that A is repeated 45 times, then you have a B which is repeated 13 times, then you have C which is repeated 12 times, so you have C which is repeated 12 times, then you have B which is repeated 16 times, and you have E which is repeated 9 times, and F 5 times. Fine. So this is my data set. Okay, we are looking into the okay. Our interest is in generating the Huffman tree, something like this. So how can we do that? The approach is very simple, right? Again, it uses the queue, priority queue, which we have already discussed when we have discussed the Prim's approach, and also we have discussed the shortest path algorithm by Dijkstra's. So the same approach is used. So this frequency, so let us change this. So this frequency is used as the actual key when you are inserting the data inside a queue. So you have now this entire data inside a queue. Imagine that this is a queue. So, or let us do something like this. We'll maintain one more table which represents queue. So you will insert all the letters inside a queue. Remember, this is a priority queue, and at every instance, a letter with the minimum key value will be extracted. Instead of extracting a single letter, in this approach, we will be extracting two letters. So what are the minimum from this? The last two are minimum, right? E and F. So that will be extracted. So this is E. And F. Okay. Now, what is the frequency of E? It's 5. And what is the frequency of F? Sorry, for E it's 5, and for F it is, for E it is 9, and for F it is 5. We will simply add these two frequency and create a new node. So new node will be created. It's actually a temporary node, you can say. So let me change the shape of that node. Okay. So this is my temporary node. Let us say it is P1. So this node will be created to represent that. So it will sound like the parent node of E and F. Now if you see that two extracted, so that means in the first step, this is my initial setup, right? After that, E and F have been extracted. So my queue contains this, E and F have been extracted. What is the frequency of E? It is 9. So E is 9. What is F? F is 5. Right? So if you add these two, then you will get 14. So 14 is the frequency of this new letter. Right? Once you have this, again you will insert this T1 inside a queue. So now my queue becomes A, B, C, D, and T1. Right? And what is the frequency of T1? It's 14. Okay. So this is the setup now. Again, you will repeat this step, extract minimum. Yeah, what is there inside a queue? You have A, B, C, D, and T1. What is the frequency of A? It is 45. What is the frequency of B? It is 13, 12, 16, 14. So what are the minimum? What are the minimum? I think I should write this table in some different way, so that will give you more clear. So this is Q. This is main, it's 5. So initially A, B, C, D, and E. Right? A was 45, this is 13, this is 12, 16, 9, 5. F. What was the minimum? 9 and 5. So now this is remains 1, 3, 12, 16, 3 removed. So this is my setup. Now what we have is inside a queue we have T1 as well. So after this step, what you have done is you have inserted T1 and its frequency was 14. So now tell me what are the minimum? 45, 13, 12, 16 and 14. So what are the two minimum? These are the two minimums, right? So again this, let me try and write in this way. This is important actually. When I extract minimum, first minimum will be extracted. So F was extracted, then E will be extracted. Similarly, again, if I extract minimum, first C will be extracted. So C frequency is 12. And then you have B, frequency is 13. Okay, so this will be the case. What is 12 plus 13? It's 25. So new node is created, T2, and that is 25. Again, this T2 will be inserted inside a queue. So after this step, what we have done, you have extracted C and B. So this is 45. Now this is extracted. This is 16, 16, 14. Now you have introduced one more letter, that is T2, and that frequency is 25. This is T2. Right. So after this step, what you have inside the queue is AB, sorry, C and B extracted. So AB, T1 and T2. Right. So this will be the next step. Then again extract mean. So what is minimum? There are four letters A, D, T1 and T2. 45, 16, 14 and 25. Minimum is T1, 14 and then 16. So these are the two minimum, T1 so T1 and then D. So after this, okay. So T1 is here, right? So let me not repeat this. Then I will extract another is D. So D is here, it's 16 and D is actually your actual content. So I will make it something like this. So this is D, frequency is 16. So now again same principle, you apply or you create another node, right? So that will be my T3 now, and 14 plus 16, that is 30. Okay, so this is 30 T3, and that will become the parent node. So T3 and 30. Again extract mean. So what will be extracted? First T2 and then T3, because this is 25, this is 30 and this is 45. So T2 is 25. So first T2 is extracted. So after this step, what you have inside the queue is A, T2 and T3. What will be extracted? First T2 and then T3. So now you have only A. Right? So T2 is extracted first and then T3. Right? So let us put like this. So first T2 was extracted, so it comes here, T3 is on the right, and then you will create another node. Obviously, this is the temporary node, so you will create over here, and that will become T4. And 25 plus 30, that is 55. That will be the parent of these two nodes. So this is the next step. Again, T4 will be inserted inside a queue. So T4 and its frequency is 55. Right. So now what we have inside a queue, we have only A and T4. So obviously first A will be extracted, then T4. Now your queue is empty. So after that, your queue does not have anything, right? So this is A and T4. So what is the frequency of A? It is 45. What is the frequency of T4? It is 55. So a new node will be created. Forty-five and 55, so it is 100, right? Okay. So once it reaches at this point, tree is ready. So this is my Huffman tree based on the content. Now the next step is you put the code. So this was my input. This is my iteration. Next step is you put a code. So it's pretty simple. Anything or every left edge will have 0 and every right edge will have 1. So this is 0, this is 0, 0, 0. Sorry, this should be 1. 1, 0, 1, 0, 1. So every left edge will be marked as 0, every right edge will be marked as 1. Now you have to, in order to generate the get or in order to get the code of it, you simply have to traverse from the root node. So you start traversing from the root node, whatever is the code of that leaf node. Every leaf node, remember this, every leaf node represents the letter. So A is a leaf node, C, B is a leaf node, F, E is a leaf node, D is a leaf node. Every leaf node represents a letter. So if you want to get or if you want to traverse, let's say for F, then what is your job? You have to simply traverse from root node to F. So if I do this, one one zero zero. So like this, you can write down the code for everything. So for A is 0, right? Similarly for C, you write it for C, then you have 1, 0 and 0. So C is 1 0 0. B is 1 0 1. F 1 1 0 0. E 1 1 0 1. B 1 1 1. Right? So this is how you can generate the prefix code. Now this is actually giving you the prefix code for each letter. So if I write over here, it is also known as Huffman code. Right. So Huffman code for A is 0. For B it is 1 0 1. For C it is 1 0 0. For B it is 1 1 1. For E it is 1 1 0 1. And for F it is 1 1 0 0. Right. So this is how you derive a Huffman code for any given data set. So what was given was the letter and the frequency. So once you have been given this, by this approach, you can always find out the prefix code, and this can be used for Huffman coding technique. So I hope this is understood. Any doubt? Yes, any doubt? Fine, good. So let us discuss the algorithm. Once you have understood the approach, I don't think approach my algorithm Huffman. See, what I am passing is a single parameter, that is set of character. Obviously, each character is represented by uh, it's a set, right? So set means it may have different attributes. So one attribute is the letter, and second attribute is the frequency of letter. So let us assume that letter is not of our concern. Our concern is only the frequency. So the frequency of character is being given. First step is you find out how many letters are there. This is important for the iteration, number of iteration, how many times you should repeat it. Uh, First step is you build a queue, a priority queue. Here it is mean priority queue, which can be built using heap. So priority queue is built from this set of character. Frequency of character is used as the key value while building that priority queue. Now we will repeat the step or the procedure n minus 1 time. That's why I told you that if there are 6 letters, then you are repeating it 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 times, right? So this was initial setup, and then you are repeating 5 times. For 6 later, if you repeat it 5 times, then you will come at the output. So that's what we are doing. So starting from first, you repeat it till n minus 1. What you are going to do, you first allocate some new node. Basically, the reason is we are actually allocating a new node. So we are creating a new node in every instance. So in first instance T1, then T2, then T3, then T4, then T5. So first step is you allocate this. Second, you extract mean and assign it to X. So extract mean, that means first minimum character from Q will be extracted, that is X, and left of Z is becoming X. So I think this can be written in 2 steps. X is equal to extract mean of Q and left of Z is X. Similarly, again you extract another mean node from a Q and assign it to right. So I have extracted, or I have created a memory for T1, extracted F. So left of T1 is F, then right of T1 is E. Then what to do? Then you will insert this T1 inside the Q. So the next step is, before you insert it, first find out the frequency of Z. So what is the frequency of Z? It is frequency of X plus frequency of Y. Once you have that frequency value, insert that Z inside the Q. Clear? So once you repeat this procedure 5 times, obviously this T5 will be the last one which will be inserted. First T1, then T2, then T3, then T4, then T5. So T5 will be the last node which will be inserted. Once you do that 5 times, finally you can insert, or finally you can extract this. So that will give you the root node, address of a root node. Once you have that address, then you can write another algorithm to find out the actual coding, actual codes. So our objective is to generate the Huffman tree. Remember, this is the algorithm for generating the tree. Once you have that tree, you require another algorithm to generate this code, right? You have to traverse this to the leaf node, and for every leaf node, you need to maintain this. So that's another approach, but that we are not interested in. What we are interested is in how this greedy approach works to generate this. Greedy because you have a greedy choice property. What is that choice property? That minimum value of key is basically your choice property. So every instance you are not looking at anything else, you are simply looking at the 2 minimum values, extract it, generate a new node, insert it. So it's a very simple and straightforward approach for generating the Huffman code. If you consider the time complexity, again, it's a priority queue you are using. So anything which is related to the time complexity of queue is going to affect or it going to reflect into the time complexity of this algorithm as well. So extract mean is log n. As remember, I told you that heap is used and the height of the heap is LGN. So whenever you want to extract something from a queue, you require time complexity of LGN, and then how many times you are doing it? Basically n times. So you have n log n, right? There are others as well, but the highest order term is n log n. You are repeating n minus 1 time, extract mean, and then you are inserting also. So each of these requires LGN time. So LGN plus LGN plus LGN, that is 3 LGN, but actually it is actually multiplying to n. So if you consider the highest order term, then the time complexity of this algorithm is big of n log n. So I hope this is clear. This was all about Huffman coding. Okay. So it's already 11:40, but I will take 5 minutes more to just sum it up what we have discussed inside the greedy algorithms. First, the greedy is the simplest approach for writing an algorithm for optimization problem. Greedy in literal term, it means that locally optimum. That means whenever you are making any decision, you are only looking at the current scenario. Local means current. You are only looking at the current scenario and find out the what is optimum. It's a straightforward approach. Every time, every instance, you will find out the local optimum and hope that it will lead to the global optimum. Remember the word hope. Hope means there is no guarantee. So there is no guarantee that greedy will give you the optimum solution. But it will always lead to the near optimum solution. So greedy will not give you the optimal solution, but it gives the near optimal solutions, or you can say suboptimal solution. Again, for any algorithm to work for greedy, it must have greedy choice property. You must have something which greedy can exploit. So that is required, and most of the time it is applied to the optimization problem. We have discussed mostly 7 algorithms, I think. The knapsack problem, fractional knapsack problem. We have also discussed 2 problems related to the job sequencing. One is a activity selection problem which has start time and finish time, and second was a job sequencing with deadline. So these are the 2 problems related to this job selection. Then we have discussed 2 related to the spanning tree. So Kruskal's approach and Dream's approach. So then we have discussed the shortest path algorithm by Dijkstra. Again, that was a greedy approach. And finally, we have discussed the Huffman coding problem statement. So with this, I conclude my discussion on greedy. Any doubt if you have regarding any problem statement, you can ask me over here. You can ask it on the classroom as well. In a day or two, I will be publishing the assignment, theory assignment for this topic. And you are supposed to submit it within a week, right? So by the next Sunday, July, this is July 25, within a week you will submit that assignment, and I think that will also help you to understand, or solving that assignment will also help you to understand these approaches. The assignment will not have anything, but it will have a simple question from each of this topic, right? Obviously, it will be picked from the question paper from the recent or the last examinations. So that's all from my side. If you have any doubt, you can raise over here. Otherwise, I will declare this session as over. Yes, anyone? Okay, so let's stop this session, and we'll start with a new topic in the next class, that is on dynamic programming. So have a good day.